It is March 10, 2023. Jack Purdy here with Signs of the Southland. We did not plan on having to put out any content today, of course. I just put out my Survivor article from this week, and then we get the news that Josh Pastner was fired today after 7 seasons at Georgia Tech. Jeff Goodman was the first to report this. This was earlier this afternoon around 1:30-ish, I want to say, is when at least I found out, and I think I know it was in about 20 minutes. It was within 20 minutes that I had seen the tweet in the news, and the discussion started swirling. So, yeah, that's where we are. And this is a little emergency pod to just recap where we are and where things are. Me, Akshay, and Jake will do a little bit more next once we do our proper episode, which won't drop until next Wednesday, actually, just to talk about I think more in depth of where we are, where we got it. Let me start with just a little bit where we probably got it wrong. If for those that listened to their last episode, if you want to go back and listen to it, we talk about men's basketball at the top because it was right after the Pitt loss. Was it after? No, it was before. It was before the tournament. Sorry, it was before the ACC tournament started. So you'll get a sense of where we thought about that, but we did address the idea of like, okay, what happens if we lose too early? What do we think is going to happen with Josh here? So we do address that directly. So if you want to go back and listen to it, like the first half hour with Asa Waters talks about that. So go back, take a listen, and you can come back here. Going forward where we are now. Josh was at the Flats for 7 seasons. Came from Memphis where he was doing a really good job. Had gone to the NCAA tournament 4 times. And so was a super high upside coach who had proven it at a quality program. And so more than enough was a good guy for us. And I think just first and foremost, everyone that I had known, and I've interacted with Josh a couple times in press conferences, everyone that I've known that has come in contact with Josh Pastner has nothing but just glowing things to say about the guy. He is one of just the most boisterous, outgoing, friendly faces I have ever met in the sports world. Between when I was playing youth sports growing up, high school sports, being around the media world the last couple of years at Georgia Tech, like there is no one like Josh Pastner. That is not an understatement in the slightest whatsoever. And I absolutely love the guy. I wish I got to know him a little bit more before he, I guess, ultimately got the can today. So I really hope everything goes well for him and his family. He had a kid recently, like last year. So he's got young kids, and he loves his wife. So I mean, this is I feel awful for the Pastner family that this had to happen in this particular moment, but I know he'll find his feet. He is one of the most resilient guys out there. So I have nothing but faith in Josh Pastner wherever he ends up. In terms of the Georgia Tech specific parts of this, though, I think we all thought we were going to be in a little bit better spot than we got to a better spot at the end of the season than we thought we were going to. The team lost 9 straight games this year in the middle of the ACC tournament, ACC play, which is the longest stretch since 1980-1981 season, which sadly coincided with the women also losing a fair number of games as well. But both I thought kind of found their form. Fortner did a really good job of. She was kind of forced to use her freshmen in a way that I think Josh didn't need to do. But Josh kind of stuck with his guys, eventually figured out how to use them better, and then vaulted them to winning 7 of their last 10 games and making the second round of the ACC tournament, which, oddly enough, depending on how you measure it, could be a successful successful season, considering they were picked last preseason. Like this was a team that was not supposed to be any good. And I think enough of us would say they weren't really all that good in general. But in the context of knowing how good we thought they were going to be, what happened, and how they rebounded after not rebounding for a while and not rebounding in games, I think I was in a spot personally where I was hopeful about what was going to happen going forward. I will say Tech did have one of the toughest ACC schedules to start conference play. Josh mentioned that in a couple of press conferences, how like they didn't really get the short end of the stick that way. They did manage that surprise win over Miami, which I think in hindsight is kind of a fluke for both teams at this point. Like Miami was clearly better. Their best player just didn't have it that night, and Tech defended them well. But they didn't really none of their other weapons really stepped up either, though. So I think in hindsight, that game, play that 10 more times, Tech probably only wins 1 or 2 of those. Overall, Josh was 109 and 114 at Georgia Tech. He fell under 500 this year. And this was also the year they had their weakest strength of schedule, in his entire tenure. It was a strength of schedule of 5.06 according to Basketball Reference. And that was the only one in the 5 zone. Last year was a 6. That was the lowest up to that point when they finished 12 and 20. So they did get their strength of schedule did kind of correlate with how good they were. They only won 20 games in his first year, went 21-16, 13-19, and then 14-18, and then 17-14, and then 17-9. That was the ACC title year in 2020. So play a full schedule in 2020, 2021. They probably get to 20 wins that year. I think that's I think that's for sure. So in a sense, he had two 20-win seasons and only 3 over 500 seasons. And so the players want him back. I mean, if you read Ken Segura's article in the AJC, he mentions Miles Kelly saying they want him there forever, and I don't blame him. I mean, why wouldn't you like Josh Pastner? I mean, you may not win all the time, but darn, you're gonna have a fun time playing basketball, and he's gonna support you no matter what. And he did say after a game this year that I've tried everything when it came to just was in the middle of that losing streak. It's just like, what are you gonna do, man? And it's what he said, which felt like the wrong thing to say at the time. This is my personal opinion. If I could be way out of bounds on this, I don't really know. I'm young in this game of understanding the media landscape. But it felt ultimately it didn't end up being terribly true because we didn't really do the thing where we just don't play Rodney Howard. And then we stopped playing Rodney Howard, and Lance Terry also came back from injury, which is key. And things got a lot better. Granted, it was an easier schedule at the end of the season, and we got the fortunate luck of playing some bad teams. We still lost to Louisville, though. Like, that's still not nothing. And ultimately, man, it's weird. It's weird. I do not know whether this was Jay Batt's decision to if this was solely on Jay Batt or boosters or that kind of. I mean, there's so many rumors that will always swirl about that. There's rumors swirled about that with football. At least us at FTRS, we have no idea. We just know he's no longer the head coach of Georgia Tech basketball. I'll read Jay Batt's letter in case for those that don't have. Who aren't subscribed or don't have this, there's the athletics department will send out periodic emails with updates like this. And so here's what Jay Batt had to say. Josh has been an incredible ambassador for Georgia Tech, treating others with utmost respect and wearing his passion on his sleeve. His genuine care for student athletes, our men's basketball program, our athletics department, and the Institute is unquestionable. On behalf of the Georgia Tech community, I want to offer my sincere gratitude to Josh, his wife, Carrie, and the family of their family for their service to the Institute. We wish them all the very best wherever their journey takes them next. Next paragraph. We have high expectations at Georgia Tech for all of our sports programs, and it is imperative that men's basketball achieves a greater level of success. Our men's basketball program is important to our department and to our institution. We will not shy away from expecting to consistently compete for ACC championships, NCAA tournament appearances, and sustain success. I am confident that with the combined strength of the Institute and our incredible fan base, as well as the support of our city, we can reach our shared goals. Our search for a new head men's basketball coach is underway, and while we will be deliberate in our process, we will move as fast as possible. And I will note, Kelly Quinlan did tweet that he did this move was made with 2 names on the watch list. There are 2 names that at least we know exist somewhere. We don't know those names, but they do exist, at least in Jay Batt's mind of where to go to. And that Jay Batt had an idea of what he was going to do when he decided to let go of Josh. So that kind of lets us know that this was not done rashly, that there is a second phase to this that was reliable enough to make pulling the trigger, wrong metaphor, that made making this decision to let go of Pastner one that wasn't going to cause a lot of collateral damage, I guess we'll put it that way. So that's where we're at now. I mean, there's the rumored candidates that fans would naturally go to are Pat Kelsey at College of Charleston, who led them to a CAA title, and they'll be at the NCAA tournament. Ironically, Brian Gregory got fired today as well. So if we're crazy, we go to him. But I mean, that's not happening. I'd be shocked if that happened. And I've seen people that say they want Mark Price, which is a tech man move, which I understand in the sense that, yes, let's get a guy who knows this and has been successful at Georgia Tech. But that was a long time ago. And he hasn't coached at this level. It'd be a total unknown. So that would be, we just saw how Anthony Irvin just did not pan out at Georgetown. So I think we've seen the proof of concept does not exactly work in this case if you're not careful. So I cast aside any thoughts you're going to get Mark Price or Gregory. Not that anyone really want either people. I guess to wrap up quickly, I was hopeful about next season. I really wish he was still around just because Josh is such a nice guy. I hope he has some involvement with Tech in the future at some point. He was a great addition to this place, and it should be lauded for the work that he did. I mean, the wins and losses may not have come out the way we really would have wanted to. I mean, we were bottom of the pile. You've heard us talk about this on the podcast a lot, like, and people that know me, like, football and men's basketball were our weak points, which can be fine if you're a massive school and you're good at everything else, like Texas is, or UCLA, or North Carolina and other women's sports. But like Tech isn't like that. We have a small offering of sports, and we've got to be good at the big stuff to make everything else shine. And we just weren't competing there, and so that's why the Brent Key move was made, and I think that's why this move was made. It also, I mean, as Jay Bat said, it's imperative they do better. And I think everyone can agree, especially from the fact that not many people were coming to games this year. You need to have some wins. Winning solves everything, and we were not winning enough. So I guess that does it. I'll just note that there is a sliding doors moment here that needs to be acknowledged. And Josh has said this in press conferences. He thought Jose and Moses Wright were coming back for a fifth season last year, and then they flipped on that. And Moses was undrafted. They both were undrafted. Moses played G League, and Jose's got a big contract with the New Orleans Pelicans right now, and he went mano a mano on Chris Paul in the playoffs last year. So I think they made the right decisions for their careers, and they certainly are living that dream right now. But in terms of the Georgia Tech part of this, Josh did. We were all under the impression they were coming back, and then they didn't. So that changes a lot about this. I don't think we're talking about this today if that happens. So we're gonna leave it there. If you want to find us on our website, we're at fromtherumbleseat.com. Our socials are FTRS blog on Twitter. I'm also posting all of our articles to our Facebook, so if you're a Facebook kind of person, it's all going to be there. I technically have our Instagram running, but we haven't really done much on that, so don't worry if you don't want to follow that. This podcast, Signs of the Southland, is on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. If you're new to the pod, please rate. If you've listened to the pod, please do rate and review us. It does help just kind of get us out there. I know there's a lot of Tech fans out there, and we aren't getting to everybody. And if you're the kind of person that wants to know everything that's happening at the Tech sports world, or just periodically wants to check in, we're the spot for you. We record every week as much as we can, even in the summer when nothing's going on. And me, Akshay, and Jacob, we're all recent Tech grads. We've been very engrossed in the sports culture the last 5 years at Tech. So I would go as far as to say we're of the most knowledgeable out there. Next Wednesday is when episode 160 will drop. We'll absolutely talk more about this as we get more news. Maybe the new coach will be announced by then. Who knows? And we'll check in with all the other sports. Baseball's having its thing. The football spring game is coming up. That's in April, so that we'll bring that up eventually. Softball's doing its thing. They had an upset win against Auburn a couple days ago. That was huge. Swim and dive is about to have NCAAs. So there's a lot going on in the college sports world in the spring, and it's a really fun time. So we hope you listen. We'll help you interact with us. You're always welcome to comment on our mailbags, any articles we write. If you're a Survivor fan, I'm writing about Survivor right now for the fun of it. So hang out with me there if you want. But with that, thanks for listening. It's a different time at Georgia Tech right now, that's for sure. So we'll be there to track it all. If you happen to be in Charlotte tomorrow, of all places, I'll be at the Atlanta United match if you're part of Footy Mob, or we'll just be at the tailgates. You can come find me there. I'll have a cooler of beer. Come find me. We'll have a good time. So with that, happy weekend, everybody. Go Jackets.